Welcome to the channel. My name is Zach, and in today's episode, fixing a broken single coil. This pickup I bought new in about 2015. It's an Antiquity Surf pickup, and one of the strands in the coil is broken. You have to unsolder the pickup leads from the eyelets, but you don't need to get them too hot, otherwise they will melt. You can see the bobbin is already burned on that right eyelet. And I have it clamped gently in a vise. I'm not worried about the vise hurting the pickup since it's already broken. It just takes a little touch with the iron to soften that solder, and they pull right out. Using an X-Acto blade, cutting the old coil off of the magnets. It's fairly messy. Little copper hairs get strewn everywhere. The eyelets need to be cleaned out of the old solder, and I'm also trying to avoid any sharp edges in the eyelets that could snag the wire and cause it to break. So I'm using a combination of a drill bit, just in my fingertips, and a battery drill to basically just core out the eyelets and get that old yucky solder out of there. The drill bit likes to catch the eyelet and it'll just spin around in the bobbin without drilling, so it takes just very light pressure to get that soft solder removed without just causing the eyelet to spin around. And I ended up using my iron to just poke a little hole through the solder and remelt it to soften up any hard edges. Here I'm loading the wire tensioner with the wire, and I do not recommend this way. You'll see another way after this, which I do recommend. I haven't yet found a totally bulletproof way of doing this. It's all very tiny, fiddly, fidgety work. The wire gets wrapped around the eyelet and tied off. With the coil on the floor, the winder is ready to set up. The bobbin gets threaded onto a center screw, and I'm trying to keep the wire out of the way so it doesn't get wrapped around the wrong direction. And right here it broke. So that method with loading the tensioner and tying off the bobbin before putting it on the machine, I found it doesn't really work that well. It's awkward and tends to break. So what I did instead was threaded the bobbin on and then looped the wire around the eyelet enough times that it's secure. You don't need to tie it into a knot, just enough loops. I did about 3 loops, and it'll hold while it's being wound up. So the tensioner works by feeding the wire over a metal guide and through 2 little felt pads with a thumb screw that tightens or loosens depending on the tension you want. Now, you can see I put a few turns on the bobbin to make sure it's ready to go. The metal guide is spaced correctly for a single coil on the machine, and the tensioner is set, so everything is ready to start turning. So winding can be a pretty tedious thing to do, especially if you're caffeinated or prone to being fidgety already, as I am both of those things. It can be kind of, tedious, just sitting there watching the wire, making sure it's fed properly. This ended up taking about 15 minutes. I had some minor hiccups with the wire knotting up, but didn't break. So everything sorted out in the end. And as you do it more, you work up the speed. So by the end there, I was going pretty quick and got through 9,000 turns in about 15 minutes. So this is just the last 50 or so turns. I'm doing it slowly, like on speed 1, just to make sure the last few turns are going on well and everything looks the way it's supposed to and nothing's caught up in the bobbin or the screw. So all that's left to do is to add a little dot of solder back into the eyelets. The wire is already tied off to the finishing eyelet, So you have a starting eyelet and a finishing eyelet, and you tie them both off exactly the same. Add a little dot of solder to them. And then the lead wires are ready to go right back in. I'm not concerned with matching the color as they were before. It doesn't matter right now. So checking it with a put it on the 20K setting. I wish I had some with the little alligator clips. And we are reading 7.01K in resistance, which is perfect for what I was going for. It's a vintage voice pickup, so 7K is pretty much perfect. It's 42 AWG wire, and I used about 9,000 turns, and so it came out to about 7K. Yeah, exactly. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look into the steps of how you can repair your own pickups at home. Later on, it will be wax potted, and hopefully I will get to test it in a guitar if I can find one that fits a single coil. Don't forget to click the like, comment, subscribe, share, everything you're supposed to do to help the algorithm. Thanks for watching.